Everyone, my name is Bridget, and today we're going to be talking about how to be feminine and intuitive as a modern woman. This is a big subject because how do we achieve balance in this hyper masculine kind of Western culture? How do we incorporate the feminine into it? How is that even included, and how do we balance that, particularly as women? If you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine too. But I have been exploring this subject since I was born, and especially over the past decade as I've been like a boss lady for a decade, and understanding how to receive support while still maintaining independence, and also how to create from a space of the feminine and not kind of buy into and slide into the masculine framework that is really like our world today. And so I'm going to be sharing my insights of what I've learned that have been very helpful for me, and I encourage you watching to the end of the video because there's some really mind-blowing insights that I think you're really going to appreciate and like, and some frameworks that will really assist in moving into this feminine flow of your true essence while also being a part of this world where you can actually merge those two energies and balance the masculine and the feminine within us. So to begin, we're in a very special time. We're in this time of incredible female empowerment, female rights, immense freedom, where we are often very self-sufficient, self-supported, which gives us these amazing availabilities to create choices that are better for us, right? So if, say, in the past, even just 100 years ago, you just were stuck with whatever husband you got and you had no choices because you were pretty much his property. And nowadays, because women have more empowerment, more rights, and more sovereignty financially, we can make decisions that are healthier for us. So there's a lot of amazing advantages to it, which are great. And I grew up in this culture of like, Destiny's Child, independent lady, Beyonce, move your stuff to the left because like I bought everything. Like, so I've grown up in this culture and it's been very empowering. And I think that that's what has led to me being a self-sufficient entrepreneur for a decade right after I graduated from college. And so I'm extremely grateful for that part of myself as well as that part of our culture that makes that available to us today. But one of the things that happens, and this is so key and beautiful and a really important thing to know, is that our modern world, whether you are entrepreneurial or whether you're just a woman in whatever form you are, this modern Western world was a framework created by men, particularly by unhealthy men, or more so from an unhealthy, fear-based, competitive perspective. Like that is very much so our Western world. And so when we think about that and we really tune into that, it wasn't designed like for women. And particularly why I keep on saying that, and I might get comments about what feminine means and all those things, but where I'm really getting at here is the inclusion of the divine nature of the biological vessel and the spirit connection that women have available through their intuitive natures, through the womb, through our certain kinds of hormones, through our connection to our intuition and spirit, which is incredibly potent and powerful. And so I want to return us to this space that we used to exist as understanding a greater level of our empowerment as women. Not just like, I have a credit card so I can buy it, but like so we can tap into like this deep well of all of the different archetypes of the feminine and what we can really do with it in a way that nurtures our souls and nurtures our beings. And why am I talking about this specifically? Because I have lots of girlfriends, and myself included, and trying to do, say, the hustle or trying to keep up with the pace of life of this masculine framework literally just doesn't work for us. Our bodies, our vessels are not made for it. It is a framework that is created to spike cortisol and adrenaline and just keep going and never end. And whereas we as women, which I want to take you into this energy and this idea, create from a very different place. So we aren't made to do it. We can do it. Sure as hell, we can do it. We can do it all. But the point is that we don't have to, and we don't have to do it quite that way. We can do it from this place that is incredibly intuitive and connected and yin and flowing and receptive. So I want you to think back in your imagination of what women were doing, say hundreds or even thousands of years in the past. As they were creating, the first place that we think of women creating is through the womb to create babies. We create life. We're like ultimate creatresses. It's incredible. And thinking about where that space of creation comes from, ideally, when the baby is conceived and we are at that point of creation, we are literally in orgasm. So the feminine, in its divine balanced nature, actually creates from a space of ecstasy, from a place of orgasm, from a place of beauty and rapture and trance. And so that's what I want to bring to this conversation, not only in like the, say, sexual baby category, but in the categories of how we gathered as women, right? We were all together. We weren't alone in separate spaces. And in this gathering, many of the folk tales, the fairy tales, were created, literally channeled by women in trance together. Most of the activities that women were doing would put us into this beautiful trance space. So whether it was like at the spinning wheel, whether it was like stirring the pot of food, whatever these different kind of crafts and activities that we were doing would put us in this place of intuition, of connection, of trance, of channeling, something that was very warm and yin, and also this flow of like oxytocin and estrogen and wonderful hormones that then continued to grow like the love and the warmth and the kindness and the softness of us as these creator beings. And so we had this energy in groups doing these kinds of crafts, and within the act of creating a baby, which was orgasmic and ecstatic. And this is the way that we created. And what I want to bring into this conversation of how to be feminine and intuitive as a modern woman, and return to the communion that we had with the divine, so that we can begin to infuse and incorporate this into our daily lives, into our work, whatever we do, because this will create long-term longevity for us as biological women, because this is literally how our hormones function, how we function. It's part of our gifts and nature. We are very different than men, and we can do all the same things as men, which I'm going to get to in a second. And there's amazing things about that, and there's also pitfalls, so just continue listening for that. But just tuning into that rhythm, that flow, and realizing and tapping into that beautiful well of who we are and who we were will really, really assist us now. It's more important than ever to do that now. And there's great books like Women Who Run with Wolves. She's an incredible author. She has other books. I can't remember her name at this moment. And she has that she's tapped into it, the energy of the wild feminine that is incredibly fierce and powerful, but also very connected and intuitive. And so I feel for myself, this is what I've been getting, literally, instead of jumping out of bed and creating, like, in my business or creating things online on the computer, and kind of getting into this state of go that kind of is motivated by this masculine framework. I've been like rolling over on my side in a half trance, still dreamy state, and like intuitively like writing out ideas that then can spawn like amazing creations later. But it can be created from this very intuitive, beautiful space where we don't have to actually use our will force, but we can use our just natural flow, like channel flow with spirit, to bring through and to do and to create whatever we need to do in our lives. So that's one of the big messages that has been coming through for me. Now, one of the other pieces to this, which is really, really important, especially if there's any still watching, of women being like, well, I want to be masculine. And I'm all for masculinity and developing that. I've developed that tremendously. And I am a badass bitch, and I can do like anything. Like, I've been in some pretty precarious situations of needing to get things done or needing to take charge of certain things, and I have that available in me, and that's very empowering, and I really appreciate that about myself. But I'm also wanting to create this long-term balance for what is natural for me in this body and in my soul essence, and that's why I'm talking about this other stuff. So as far as one of the things just to note about the shadow side of the over masculinity that can happen and arise, which this whole video was actually sparked by one of my dear friends who's an incredible woman of absolute service to others. Like, that's what she's just doing, and she's an amazing boss and like all of the things that she's doing, but she's felt like she's had to do it on her own. So this is one of the shadow sides to leaning extra far to the masculine side, to the right side of us, is what ends up happening is that if there's wounding in any area, whether that was from when you were a little girl and maybe you didn't have the support you needed and so you had to kind of toughen up and do it yourself, or in our ancestral past as women, one thing that is extremely common, especially for women that I can do this all myself, that line that comes up and that energy that comes up is that is coming from a wound. And that is coming from a wound in our ancestry of when men went off to war, when men had certain things that happened to them and they died or went away, and the women had to do it all themselves. And that was incredibly scary for them, and it was sad for them. But after they got over those emotions, they had to toughen up to take care of their families, to take care of their kids. They had to become the strong ones. And so what can happen is if that is a tendency or that is a wound in your ancestral past or your younger self past, teenage past, any time where you haven't had support, and that is in your energy field, that wound, then what can happen is when you start to move through life or through creating through this masculine framework, it can spark those wounds, and then you just kind of take it and run with it and like, I can do it all myself. And you just kind of become this crazy person that's awesome and badass and can do it, but also is leaning out of balance. And so it's really important to go do the healing work surrounding that. I have an ancestral course for the ancestral piece, lots of inner child, and there's tons of other modalities and tools that you can use out there. I have an inner child video as well, so you can check that out if you want to heal those pieces so that that tendency doesn't come up in you. So the balance and the antidote then to that is to, which is in How to Be Feminine, which is to continue to be receptive to support. And this is fundamental, and I sucked at this for years. It would literally be to the degree that I was with like an old boyfriend and I was moving into his place and he was taking a nap and I got there with all my stuff, and while he was sleeping I moved everything in by myself, heavy stuff, because I could and because I didn't want to ask for any help. And he got up and he was super mad. And that pattern continued with me for a really long time, and I was scared. I think that there was this piece of not feeling worthy or valuable enough to receive support, and also the proving to myself that I can do it myself, and all the woundings that I talked about as well. But now I've gotten to this place where I want to come into more balance, into the feminine, and come into this beautiful balance between the masculine and the feminine energies within me and how they're experienced. And so now I'm much more available and receptive to support. And this is something that takes time, a lot of presence, a lot of vulnerability and humility to be able to actually receive from others. And as I was talking to my friend about this, it was one of those things where it's like, well, it's not showing up. Like, see, no one wants to help anyways. And we create these self-fulfilling prophecies from these wounds or from these particular frameworks. And so what has to happen first is we actually need to release into the vulnerability, into the feminine, into the worthiness that we are absolutely valuable enough to receive the support and the help that we need in all categories of life, that we literally put that out to the universe for those reflections to show up for us. And if we don't, and if we are waiting for it to not happen, it just won't happen. And so just being aware of that, because what actually the best equation is that independence as this empowering woman plus support equals balance. Because the masculine is kind of like the independent, and the receptive is that which can receive support. And in the middle then is the balance. And I understand that some people don't like these terms of masculine and feminine. You can think of it as yin and yang. They're universal energies that everyone is experiencing, that are within our own bodies and energy fields. And so we're just playing with these energies. So just realizing that we can, independence plus support actually equals balance. And so with that, opening up to continue to be receptive is one of the best ways that you can tune into your femininity and your intuition and stay balanced within your own natural essence. And I had reflected over the past couple months to the degree of how much support I have actually allowed myself to open to. And I have a myriad of at least 10 different people, and a lot of it's actually male support, that are helping me in all the categories of my life, whether it's actually like physical construction, business, partnerships, like all different pieces are like coming to me because I'm available to it. And so just softening ourselves and realizing we don't have to do it all ourselves, though we could, and we are capable of it, but we don't have to. And that will actually lead us to more balance and to more beauty, so that we can then again tap into this creative feminine flow that is natural to who we are as the feminine and as biological women, though you can experience whatever energies you want again. So we can just tap into that and have that availability to create from that space. So those are some of the major pieces that I've learned. I've been through these different energy dynamics with myself, and I hope that some of these will prove helpful for you as you navigate as the feminine in this very masculine world. And I wish you all the best. Please comment below to let me know what tips were the most helpful for you, what some of your experiences have been. And be sure to subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and click the bell button so you're sure to get the notifications whenever I create new videos. And I just want to tell you that I love you and I appreciate you, and I wish you all the best on your journey, and have a wonderful day.